back to the channel. So before we start the video, I would request you please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, because you will find lots of interesting and lots of useful videos on DevOps as well as cloud on this channel. Okay. Also team, this video is going to be long because as I said in my previous community post, I have been working on this kind of pipeline. Okay. So to be very frank, you might have seen lots of pipeline videos, lots of like build and deployment projects on YouTube. They are amazing. Okay. But the reality is that at this point, because so much of crowd is there in DevOps, and if you are going for interviews, even interviewers knows at this point that okay, this guy knows build and deployment. Okay, then you know what they are going to focus on in understanding. They will ask you, how did you do it in your company? That's the main thing. Okay, they may ask you, okay, what was the configuration of your server on which you configured this specific tool? Okay, they may ask you how much storage you used to give and what was the version of tools. Okay, so those things matters a lot, as well as like the way that you did in your company, you need to explain that. Okay, and that's what I focus on even on my channel as well as on my paid courses. That is the main point on which I try to focus on, to give you the real experience how things are being done in companies. Okay, the branching strategies, the configuration, how things are set up, all those things. Okay, and that's exactly we are going to do. We are going to do everything from scratch. I'm going to set up multiple servers whichever we are going to use in different virtual machines. Okay, and I'll be explaining side by side everything, every kind of things that you need to know from how things happen in companies. Okay, yes. So before we get started with that, let me just tell you that my batch 3 is started, and this is completely real time focused. Also, good thing about this batch 3 is that you will get access to batch 2 videos as well. Okay, in addition to that, to make sure that we cover more advanced topics, what I will suggest, you can even the people who are enrolled in batch 3, you can even ask me to make specific videos. Aditya, I want to learn this topic, kindly make a video on this. So as per the time availability, I'll definitely make a video on that topic as well. Okay, and also as I explained, whichever tool I teach you, I'll explain everything with respect to that tool from my point of view, how I used to work with that tool in my previous company or current company. Okay, what kind of issues I face, what kind of troubleshooting I do, all those things, everything. Okay, and every tool that I'm going to teach, it's going to be inside out. So if you're interested in learning, if you want to spend 2 months of time to learn everything from corporate, how things happen, and like master every tool, whatever like is mandatory for you to learn. So yeah, this course is for you. As of now, we are having a discount of 25%. You can use the coupon code cloud25. Okay, also team, uh, I have a Telegram channel as well, and this channel lots of discussions just happens, technical discussions about DevOps and issues and how we can fix. So yeah, this is one of the Telegram channel you should definitely join. The main reason that I say that, because it's completely open. Okay, anyone can send messages, here, and yeah, everyone is have the access to reply. Okay, I do not I do not restrict anyone. Okay, you cannot send messages if it is related to DevOps or like technical things. You are free to post anything here, whatever you want. Okay. Okay team, so now, as I said, we are going to set up everything from start, and we are going to use a Java based application, full stack application having front end, back end, a database. Okay, and we are going to build and deploy from scratch to a Kubernetes server. Okay, yeah. So with that being said, let's get started. Okay team, so now let us understand the workflow of the task that happen in companies. Okay, so let's say we have an application which is already deployed to Kubernetes cluster. Okay, and it's a client application. We are working as a DevOps engineer. So let's say at some point client says, okay, I need some changes in the application. He says that I want to change the background color of the application that is running. Okay, so in that case, what will happen? The client will raise a Jira ticket, and that ticket will be assigned to a developer. Now developer will start working on it, and he will write the code that will change the background color of the application. Okay, so before pushing it to GitHub repository or GitHub, wherever they are storing their source code, developer will test that code in their local system, so that they can make sure, okay, from our side it's working, the code is correct and it's working fine. Okay, so once everything is working fine, developer will push that code to GitHub and inform us. They can inform us directly or via mail along with an approval mail. Okay, or they can raise a ticket, another ticket for DevOps engineers. Okay, so once we got informed, okay, the changes are available and we need to deploy those changes into Kubernetes cluster, what we will do, we will start configuring our pipeline. it's possible that pipeline may be already present, but we need to make some changes. Okay, so the first stages that we are going to have in our pipeline is to compile the source code and run the unit test cases that the source code have. After that, we are going to use SonarQube to perform code quality check and code coverage. Okay. Code quality check basically makes sure that your source code does not have too many vulnerabilities, code smell, bugs, these kind of issues in your source code. The less these kind of things, better the quality. Okay. After that, we are going to use OS dependency check tool to perform a vulnerability scan on our dependencies that are being used in our source code. Okay. After that, we are going to build the application, or basically package the application with the dependencies and all the required things so that it can work or run properly. Okay, so once we have built the artifact of like application is available as an artifact, we will push that artifact to nexus repository. Nexus repository is an artifact repository kind of things where we store artifacts. Okay, after that, we are going to build our Docker image and tag it so that we can know, okay, this is a specific version of the application changes. Then before we push the Docker image to Docker registry, we are going to scan the Docker image, okay, using AquaTree. Now you might have seen lots of people, and even long ago I used to use AquaTree for scanning the like file system also. Okay, but the reality is that if you are already having OS dependency check, why you are going to use again Trivy to scan the file system? Also, OWASP is the best tool if you want to scan the dependencies. Okay, so for that reason I went with Trivy to scan the Docker images only. Okay, and for the file system for scanning the dependencies, I'm going to use OWASP dependency check only. Okay, coming to next, so once we have scanned our Docker image, we can push the Docker image to a Docker Hub repository. Okay, in companies they have a private registry, but as of now we don't have private registry, so we are going to use a public registry only. Okay, but in companies they use their own private registry that may exist on ACR or ECR or their self-hosted private registry. Okay, so after that, we are going to create our YAML manifest files, which will be containing details how our application is going to be deployed, how much resources it will be available to it. Okay. After that, once we have the manifest files ready, we can deploy the changes to Kubernetes cluster. That's exactly the flow that we are going to follow now, and I'm going to show you how many servers we are going to create. Okay, so first of all, let us understand OS dependency check and Trivy. These are tools and these are not servers. So we are not going to need a separate server for these tools. Instead, so Nexus, SonarQube, Jenkins, these are servers as well as tools. So we need to create servers for that, and in companies we need to have separate server for SonarQube, Nexus, Jenkins, right? So that's what we are going to do. Also for Kubernetes, I'm going to use one master node and two slave node that also I'll be configuring from scratch so that you know how in reality it's been done. Okay. Okay. Okay team. So now what we are going to do is basically create our servers where we are going to uh, install the tools. Okay. Okay. So as I mentioned, how many servers we are going to need? First of all, we are going to set up these three. After that, we are going to set up our Kubernetes. So first of all, let's create three servers. We can click on launch instance. Okay, immediately number of instances that we will be needing is 3. Okay, I'll be taking Ubuntu machine and let me select this one, this server version. Okay, and size. So in companies basically we used at least 4 GB of RAM. Okay, key, let us select. We have one key available, and yes, talking about security group, so let me just show you quickly which ports are open on my security group. Okay, so we'll be having 25 as for SMTP, and then you might see this specific range of ports. Okay, 30,000 to 32,768. So this basically is going to be used in our Kubernetes. Okay, so I'll explain later about this. And in general, I keep open this range also, 3,000 to 10,000. The reason for that, because most of the tasks that I usually do is in this range. Okay, like 80, 80, 81, 5,000 and everything. 3,000 also use. So I just keep this range open so that I can use. Okay. Then we have for HTTP and HTTPS. Then we have for SSH, SSH, why this 22 port is open? Because we are going to be connecting to the virtual machine that we create using SSH only. So for that, 22 port is mandatory. Then we have 6443, though this is going to be used for like once we create Kubernetes, so this port is going to be used there. Then we have 465. 465 port is basically used when you want to configure Gmail as a like something like, for example, if you want to configure email notifications you want to receive from Jenkins. In that case you'll be needing 465 port. Okay, so I keep, in general I keep these open. Okay, going back here, so port we have selected, security group we have selected, configuration storage. So in general we used to give at least 20 GB of like storage to our machines, so I will just give 20. But if you are doing it for the first time, 15 will also do fine because we are doing it in separate machines, right? Okay, so let me click on launch instance. It has been launched. We will go here back. Let me quickly name these so that I don't forget anything. Jenkins. Then we are going to have SonarQube. Then we are going to have Nexus. Okay, so one by one we are going to install these servers quickly. Okay, so first of all, I have already said you that use MobaXterm. It is much user friendly when you want to work with VMs. Okay, and it is available for free. Make sure you install the portable version, because for those people who are working in MNC companies and if they don't have separate laptops, so in that case they can use the portable version. Sorry, portable version of MobaXterm. It's available for free and it can be installed on those machines also. Okay, without getting highlighted. Okay, now let us create our session. So you can click on session, click on SSH, provide the remote host, that is the IP address, right? So first let us configure for Jenkins. Public IP address we just copied. Go back to MobaXterm, put here, and as you remember I have created Ubuntu machines, right? So username will be Ubuntu, and advanced as such use the private key. We are going to connect using a key, right? And key is available on my system already. Click OK, click yeah. So now this is created. Now one thing that I usually do is rename the session, because so that I can see which sessions I am connected to, and customize color, so I will just put somewhat red. Yes. Okay, let me close this. Okay, so Jenkins connected. Now what I'll do, I'll just create a duplicate of this, rename it to SonarQube, and color I'll just change to cyan. Click OK. Okay, now in this SonarQube next duplicate session I created for Jenkins, I can right click on edit session, and here I just need to replace the IP address. Let us quickly do that as well. SonarQube, public IP address copied, go back to MobaXterm, put the IP address here. Okay, click OK. Now SonarQube connected, Jenkins connected, and we need to create one for Nexus. So let us create another duplicate session, rename it to Nexus server or Nexus. Let's change the color to green, and we need to change the IP address, right? So we can quickly go to our third instance, Nexus, double click there, and yeah, replace here, right? Now we have all the three servers ready. So let me open it, Jenkins first. So let us start by Jenkins only, right? So first thing that you need to make sure that the prerequisite for Jenkins is that you need to have Java installed. So if I run this command simply Java, we see that Java is not available. Okay, previously I used to install OpenJDK 11, but the support for OpenJDK is like depreciating slowly. So we are going to use 17. 17 is another version which is being used rigorously, and it's in most of the companies at this point, new companies or most old companies also, they are migrating their projects to newer versions. Okay, at this point we have like 21 version also of Java available, but I will go with 17. Okay, so let's quickly install it. Okay, now see the error, unable to locate package. You know why? Because we have not yet updated our package. So as I say, first command that you should always run while like you working with a VM virtual machine, Linux VM, first command should be sudo apt update. This will update all the packages and make them available for installation. Okay, so let's wait for a few seconds. Meanwhile it is getting done, we can, okay, it's already done. Okay, let me install Java. Meanwhile Java is getting installed, we can go here and search Jenkins installing. Okay, and we are using, this is the official page of Jenkins where you will find the steps for installing Jenkins. You can, like, wherever you want to install, you can select the option. So we have a Ubuntu machine, we can select this option, right? And now we are going to copy this whole command using this. Go back here and let's run this. Scroll down, and you see I use LTS version because it's kind of stable also, and it is like long-term support. Okay, scroll down and we'll find these options. So we will run this command also, which will enable the Jenkins. Then we will start it and we'll just check the status. Okay, let's wait. Okay, so Jenkins is enabled. We will let us start it. And one last thing we need to do is just check the status also, if it is running fine or not. Okay, so it's up and running, you can see. So let me close this. And meanwhile, let's quickly configure our Jenkins on the uh, 1 second, on our server also. Okay, so I will just copy the IP address, and by default Jenkins get installed on port 8080. Okay, so we'll click this, and yes, so you can see Jenkins is available. So we need to put the password. Location is this one, as you can see. Go here, use sudo cat for like viewing the content. Now let me copy this whole thing, put it here, continue, and always go with install suggested plugins because Jenkins knows better which plugins is required. And now this will be done. This will take some time. Okay, now let us come back to SonarQube. Let us configure SonarQube. Okay, and as I told, first command that we need to run sudo apt update. Okay, now we need to install Docker because we are going to use Docker to install SonarQube. So it is not present, and we can use this command to install Docker -y to give the pre-permissions so that it does not ask again or prompt key. Okay, you need to put the give the permission that okay you want to install. Okay, so let's see. The thing is key, we don't need to give specific permissions for Docker here because Docker will be used in Jenkins specifically, so we'll be giving permissions there. Okay, this is done. Now let's become root sudo su. Okay, if you don't want to give become root and you want to run Docker commands, you can give the permission to Ubuntu, but here we don't need that much. Okay, so we just need to use Docker for setting up SonarQube, so I'm not going to give specific permissions. Okay, now let us run the command docker run -d. -d means we are running in detached mode. Detached mode means in running in background. We won't be able to see much logs here, okay, on the front. Then -p. Okay, -p means which ports we want to open it, and two ports I'm going to give. Let me explain you about the ports. First one is the host port, second one was the container port. Host port is the port that will be open on this VM where our Docker container will be running. Second port is the port that will be open on the container. Okay, Okay, now we need to provide the name of the Docker image which we want to use. So as of now, there are two versions of SonarQube. One is community version, one is developer version. Developer version is a paid version, community version is a free version. So we are going to go with community. But there is a catch in that as well. And yeah, that I'll be teaching you someday later. Community dash LTS we can go with. One second, sorry. Name should be LTS dash community. Let's see. Okay, so this image is available and this will set up SonarQube. Great. Meanwhile, let's check the status of Jenkins. So amazing. Let's put the details here. Password, confirm password. Save and continue. Now we have started using Jenkins and basically we have set up our Jenkins, but as of now we have not configured anything, right? So let's see the status of SonarQube again. SonarQube is done. If you want to check the status if SonarQube container is running or not, docker ps you can put and you can see it is running, right? Okay. Now by default, as I already explained you, how much memory I have given, 4 GB and storage was around 20 GB. Okay. So if someone asks like how much you used to give storage for Jenkins, you should say 4 GB of RAM to master and slave. Okay, two machines. And storage, so you should say on slave we used to give more storage. If needed, we used to add more storage if required. Okay. 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 So let us see if we can access SonarQube as well. Let me close this. So it is SonarQube server, this one, copy. And as I mentioned, we have opened two ports, 9000, 9000. So SonarQube will be available on the, we can access it through a host port, right? Click OK. And yes, SonarQube is available. By default, the first username password will be admin. Same thing we can copy here itself. Login. Okay, never. Okay, so here we need to provide some new password. So let us do that as well. New password will be just Aditya. Update. Okay, so SonarQube is server is set up, right? Now what we need to do, we need to set up the Nexus server. So let's do that as well. So as of now, we have configured Jenkins and SonarQube. Let us configure Nexus in a separate server with the same configuration, 4 GB of RAM and 20 GB of space. Okay. Okay. So here also we'll be needing Docker and just doc to create a container. So we don't need to give specific permissions. So we can become root and then we can start with that. Okay. So first let us set up Docker. As we can see, Docker is not available, but we got the command to install it. So let's do that as well. And here again, same issue. So we can quickly update the packages. So packages getting updated. Once this is done, then we can install Docker, and using Docker we can use a Docker image to install Docker container. So let me install Docker. Let's wait for this to complete. And you can see as of now I did not use any specific like scripts or commands. Everything is I took just from the internet. Okay. But one thing I would suggest even I'll provide the Jenkins file, but I would request you try to write it by just seeing the videos because that will make you much better uh, in comparison to like just copy pasting the Jenkins file. Okay. But still I will provide, you can use it for reference, but simply just do not copy paste because it won't give you any kind of learning. Okay, so this is done. Now we can install our Nexus. So I can use the command docker run -d. You remember why? -port. So one of the default port that Nexus uses is 8081, so we are going to go with that. And the Docker image name. Okay, so Docker image name is going to be SonarType slash nexus 3. I hope this is present, so let's see. Yeah, it's present. So in this video actually you are going to learn a lot of concepts because so many things I'm doing. Okay, for example, like now once the Docker container is created, we are going to go inside the container, so that also you'll learn if in case you don't know. So if I run the command docker ps, we can see Docker container is up and running, right? So let us go inside it. How we can do? Docker exec, just for execute hyphen it. Hyphen it means interactive terminal, because we are going to open a terminal using which we are going to interact with the Docker container, right? Okay, and then the id or the name, this name also we can use. Okay, then bin slash bash, this is the like script terminal we are going to use. Okay, so let's see. Now we are inside the terminal. Let's see what are the folders. So basically we need to the reason that I went inside this folder is to find the password. Okay, the default password. Okay, meanwhile this is being done, we can try to access our SonarQube if it is up and running or not. As I mentioned, we have set it up on port 8081, right? So copy the IP address 8081. Yes, so it is up, and now to sign in it will ask. You can see uh, the username is admin and password is located in nexus data admin.password. No issues, we can try to search that. So let's go inside nexus. Any nexus data you see here in deploy, I don't see. Okay, let's try go back and sorry. Let's go SonarType. Let's see if we can find here nexus 3 cd nexus 3 admin.password. Great, so we are able to see it. So let me view the contents. Cat, and this is the password. Where is it? Yeah, this is the password that we are going to use. So I will just copy this and let's try to access now. Username is admin, password is quite long. Yes, great. So now we have yeah, new password it is asking me to change, so I will just put Aditya. Okay, so our enable anonymous access, yes, we'll be needing that. Okay, so nexus is completely set up. If you want, you can go to this repositories. You will find lots of default repositories available which we are going to use eventually. Okay, great. So this is done. Nexus is also set up. And yeah, one more thing you got to learn, how you can go inside the any container. Okay, to just come out, I think I can put next exit. Yeah, great. So these servers are set up now, right? One more thing, team, you need to know that we are going to use Docker installed on Jenkins also, because we are going to run Docker commands. Okay, so let me quickly install it. And one thing that we need to do is make sure that Jenkins is able to run Docker commands without root. So for that we need to run this command. Okay, now you might have seen this command everywhere, but to be very frank, this command is not 100% secure, and it opens several vulnerability points. Okay, better option that we can use is to go with changing the specific permissions to one to a Jenkins user, but for now let's just go with this. So now other users also in Jenkins will be able to execute the Docker commands. Okay, as I mentioned, there are lots of like concepts you are going to learn in this video, so make sure to watch it properly. Okay, now Jenkins configured, SonarQube configured, and Nexus is configured. So now let's go to manage Jenkins and let's install certain plugins in our Jenkins. Okay, one more thing, team, that one small thing that I wanted to share that I have faced previously. As I mentioned previously, I use the JDK 11, right? If you still use JDK 11 with the latest version of Jenkins, here you will find a warning sort of thing that will say ki, okay, the support for JDK 11 will be depreciated or something like that. For that reason, I started using JDK 17. Okay, just so you know. Okay. Also, team, as I mentioned, ki Jenkins master and Jenkins slave, these are two machines that should be used. As of now, I'm not using slave, but to set up a slave, I'll be giving you exact instructions, uh, which is available in my another video, so you can watch that and then you can learn. Okay. Okay. So let's go to plugin section, available plugins, and here let's install certain plugins. First, SonarQube scanner, not the SonarQube server, but the scanner we are installing. Okay. Scanner is the one which will start the analysis. Okay. Next, we will be needing, I think, let's see if for Nexus we have something. Yes. In case you want to publish artifacts to Nexus, you can use this. There are multiple ways, but I'll show you the proper way. Okay. After that, what we need? After that, we are going to need Docker as well for setting up the Docker stage, Docker commands. Okay. After that, we are going to need OWASP. Let's see. Yeah, OWASP dependency check. After that, I don't think anything else we need, but yeah, JDK we need. So for JDK, I usually go with Eclipse JMUN installer. This will help you install multiple versions of JDK, whichever you want to use, you can go with that. So click on install, and these tools will be installed. But still, we need to configure this properly. Okay, so let's wait for it. As of now, we have not configured our Kubernetes, so stay tuned. We are going to do that as well. Just let's wait for some time. But one more thing, team, that do not go with like the free tier, because it may not work properly, because it will hang immediately. So do not go with that. Okay. Okay. So Jenkins is plugins installed. Now let us configure the tools that we have installed, the plugins. First, JDK. Name will be JDK 17. All the tools that you are going to configure, use the option install automatically. And here, install from Adoptium. We are going to use JDK in 17. Let me just configure JDK 11 also in the case that JDK 17 does not work for our application. Okay. So let's do that as well. Okay. So that configured. Now let us configure the SonarQube scanner. So I will provide the name as Sonar Scanner, and latest version we can go with that. Maven. So Maven 3 we are going to use. Versions I want to use 3.6.0, or maybe little bit above than that, 6.3. Yeah. Dependency check, we are going to provide the name as DC, install automatically from GitHub, and version that I want to use 6.5.1. Usually I use this. Okay. And Docker also, let's just install the latest one. Okay. So these tools are configured, but as of now we have not connected SonarQube server or Nexus in our Jenkins. Okay. So let me show you how to set up Jenkins, SonarQube first of all in Jenkins. Okay. So for that we are going to need so see, when you want to connect to any website, what you need? A username and password. Okay. But at this point in almost everywhere, we don't use the password. For most of the tools, we usually go with a token, right? So for SonarQube also, we are going to generate a token. We can do it using this section. Into token name. Token name, we can just put anything you want. Token, and expires in 30 days. Fine. Copy the token. Okay. Now go to Jenkins, go to manage Jenkins, credentials. So this is the section where you add credentials. Add credentials. since we have a token, we can use the option secret text. Secret will be this one, ID will be sonar token. Same we can put in the description as well. Okay, so this is done, and meanwhile we are at it, so we can add the Docker credentials as well, because we are going to need it. So we can put the details as Adi Jaiswal. Password will be this one. ID will be Docker credentials. Same thing we will put in description. If you don't put anything in ID also, then it's still not a problem. Jenkins will generate by itself. But the thing is, it's like a little complicated to read, and it's not much easy to remember. So for that purpose, just put your like something very which you can remember. Okay, click on create. So these two tokens we have created, right? Next, what we can do, go to manage Jenkins and system. So this is the section where you configure servers. Let's open it, and let's scroll down to this one, SonarQube servers. You might be thinking if why this option is available. This is because we have just installed SonarQube scanner plugin. So Jenkins knows once that plugin is installed, SonarQube analysis is going to be done, and for that we're going to be needing the SonarQube servers, right? So let's connect it. Here I will just put the name as Sonar default URL. URL we can take from here. Let's copy the whole thing, put it here. Token, since we have added, so it is available, right? Click apply. This is done. This is good. Now one more thing that we will be needing is to configure this nexus. Okay, so some configuration we need to do inside our project, and some configuration we'll be doing inside the Jenkins. Okay team, so we have configured SonarQube, Nexus we have created, right? But to make sure that in Jenkins also Nexus is available for usage, what we can do, we can install a specific plugin. As of now, you see, don't see one specific option, which is managed files. This is the file where we can create the configuration for basically credentials for servers. Okay, servers like Nexus. So let me show you how do we do that. So we'll go to plugins, we'll go here and search for config file provider, right? Click on install. Let's wait for it. Now it is installed. Now if you go back to manage Jenkins, scroll down, you see this option is available, managed files, right? Let's open it and click on add a new config. So we are going to create global one. Okay, and we are going to provide the name as global maven. Okay, click on next. Okay, so here we need to provide the credentials for our Nexus server, and let me see where exactly I need to provide this one. Okay, so let me copy this. Okay, now it is asking for ID, right? So two repositories we are going to use, releases and snapshots. So let's copy this ID. This name is going to be used as ID as well. Okay, so I will put the ID. Now talking about password, so we have set up, right, admin, and password was Aditya. Now you might be thinking, the one question that you might be thinking, okay, this password is visible, right? But there is another option to configure password. You see this option, server credentials. Here also you can provide the server ID, then username, password. Okay, but yeah, consider this a task for yourself. Try this and let me know if you face an issue. But for now, let's go with this. Okay, and let's configure for Maven snapshots as well. You might be thinking the difference between snapshots and releases, right? Previously, I was also even confused. So releases is going to be the actual one which we deploy to production. Snapshots are something like we are doing for the lower environment, like development environments. Okay. See, everything is actually once you start working at something, you will learn a lot. speaking from experience actually. Okay, so this is done. It's just submit. So this part is done, right? Now as I mentioned that we have configured the nexus or credentials in our Jenkins, right? We need to make some more changes, so that we will be doing in pom.xml file. To access something, what you need to do? You need to provide the sorry, you need to provide the website URL, username, password. Username or password we have added in our Jenkins, right? But URL of the application like Nexus is not yet configured. So that part we need to do, and that part usually done in here, this section, in the POM files. You see here what changes we need to do. Already this is added, right? ID, name, URL. So in URL we are going to change because the ID and name is going to be Maven releases and Maven snapshots only. Correct? Also you can find this configuration once you go in the repository. Okay, so let's quickly go here, copy for releases. This is the releases URL. Let me paste it here. Okay, and then for snapshots, I would really appreciate team, like if you are doing it by yourself, like seeing and watching the video and doing it, because it's lots of setups, right? Okay, so this part is done. We can commit the changes. Just to verify, one time scroll down, everything correct? Yeah. Okay, so now, now this part is also done, right? Next is done. So let us create our pipeline. New item. I will just write full dash stack pipeline project. Click OK. Discard old builds, and number of builds I want to keep in history is going to be just 2, and total number of days I want to keep the builds in history is 100. Scroll down and let's create our pipeline. So I'll start with the hello world because it makes everything much easier. Okay, so let me create multiple stages as of now. Okay, multiple stages created. Remember one thing, no two stages can have the same name. Okay. Okay, first stage, what it's going to be? It's going to be get checkout. Checkout is basically creating a local copy of the source code in your Jenkins so that it can be used for further, right? Let's and let's create. See, there is this section pipeline syntax. So if some specific command that you are not aware, you can go with this. So let's say I don't know the command for get checkout, what to do, right? I can go to this section, search for get here, and now we need to put the repository URL. It's going to be this one. Put here, branch will be main credentials. So credential we don't need because it's a public repository. In case you're like you are using a private, you need to provide the credentials. Okay, generate the script, copy this, paste it here. All right. So first stage done. Second stage which I want to run is basically compiling the source code, which will be this one. And here we are going to see whatever commands you write in Jenkins script, you need to close it in sh for shell. So I can write mvn compile, right? Okay, now the thing is key, we have not defined Java or Maven. So by default, whatever is installed in Jenkins, that is going to be used. Okay, in case you want to define it to make sure that specific versions of Java and Maven are used, we can use this option, tools, double quotes, then tool type. First we have Maven and name of the tool that we have configured. If you remember, Maven 3, right? Same for Java. GTK, the tool that we configured, GTK 17. Just to reconfirm, I will go back, manage Jenkins, tools, and let's see. We have JDK 17, JDK 11. So let's try with JDK 17. Great. So these two tools we have added, and these will be available for usage. So first stage, Maven compile. Second stage, basically what happens is we can run the unit test cases. So we can run the we can provide the name as unit test. Okay, and the steps will be sh mvn test. Okay, but the problem, I wanted to teach you one more specific concept, so I'm using this project. The thing is this project, it has test cases failing. Okay, so if test cases are failing, this command is going to be failing, right? If sorry, this command will fail, and this stage will fail, and then whole pipeline will fail, right? So what should we do? So the thing is, in case of Maven, when you run one stage, one phase of the life cycle, previous phases will also run. So basically, if I run command like maven package or maven deploy, so previous stages like maven test, maven compile will also run. And if maven test runs, then it will be failing, right? So what we can do, we can use argument -d skip test equal to true. That means it will be skipping the test cases. It won't run the maven test command. But just to show you that in case if it works fine, like in case of a project that has test cases that are running fine, you should run the command maven test. Okay. Okay. Next stage which I want to use is OWASP dependency check. Okay. Or maybe, yeah, let's go with SonarQube analysis. Sorry about the spelling mistakes. Okay. So for SonarQube analysis, what we need to do, before we, as I mentioned, whatever tool you want to use, you need to first define it somewhere. Okay. Two tools we defined for Maven and JDK. Let's define for SonarQube also. So we need to define SonarQube as well, which we are going to do in this format, environment. We are going to create a variable which will be named as scanner underscore home. Okay, then we need to like define the value of the variable will be actually the tool SonarQube scanner. Okay, so name of the tool that we have already configured is scanner, right? So here we have defined our SonarQube scanner tool. Now we need to start using it in our analysis. Again, what we can do, we can take help from pipeline syntax, right? Here you will scroll down and find something with SonarQube environment, something like that. This one, right? So token, let's take it, generate, copy this whole thing, paste it here. We need to provide the instructions to perform the analysis inside this block. Now team, one thing that you might be finding very interesting is that here you see that it is written credential ID. That means key for our server, we are going to need this credential ID. Okay. But what I like to do is that instead of providing credential ID here, I provide the whole server that we have configured. Okay. By that, what I mean, if I go here to manage Jenkins, go to system, you see here that I have configured the server with the credentials itself with the name Sonar, right? And that's what we are going to do now. We are going to remove this part, remove this as well. Now it has access to the server. Okay, so separately we don't need to provide the credentials. Got it? Okay, now let us write the commands to execute the analysis. Now, you know, like I mentioned, we need to enclose the commands inside sh, right? Sh double quotes. But let's say that I have lines of code for like multiple lines of code. Okay, so in that case we cannot use double quotes. What we are going to do, we need to use 3 single quotes, and there we can write the code for multiple lines and then close it with 3 quotes. It will be assumed in a single block. Okay, so let's see, we have already created the variable right here. So same variable we are going to use now, dollar scanner underscore home slash bin. Why I'm writing bin? Because the executable of a tool exists inside bin folder, and then name of the tool, which will be Sonar Scanner, which is the executable, and it's going to start the analysis. Now we need to provide the information. See, already we provided the information about the server and credentials using this Sonar. Now we need to provide the name of the project with which this analysis should be happening, right? For that we can use arguments like d sonar dot project key. Key will be, let's say we'll just put as ecart. So second argument which we need to give is going to be project name. Now one thing that you need to remember is project P capital, sorry, P small, N capital, P small, key capital. Lots of students have like did not write it correctly and then it was failing. Okay. Now we need to go to next line. So we'll put a slash, go next line, and one more one more argument which will be the sonar dot java dot binaries. Why we need to put this? Because our application is having Java based, so it will be having binaries file. So we'll just put a dot. That means it's in the current directory. Okay, and we can close this. So this is done, right? Now let me check if any error is there. If not, we can try to execute and let's see what issues we faced or if everything goes well. So yeah, let's do it. Build now. So initially what will happen, like whatever tools we have mentioned, it will be getting installed. You see, unpacking, these three tools we have mentioned. So all these three tools will be first installed and this will happen for the first time only. After that, whatever build we run, so this stage won't be like getting done again and again, like installation of the tools. Okay. So let's wait for it to get completed and then we can add the further stages. Okay. So git checkout done, web and compile it's doing now. Let's scroll down. You see, like whatever dependencies are mentioned in our POM file and whatever the like required dependencies needed, those will be getting downloaded from the official repository of Maven. Okay. Okay. Now you see, like we have already skipped the test cases, so the test cases won't be running. If I don't skip, test cases will be getting failed. Now it's in Sonar stage, so let's wait for it to complete. No, if properly, if you see the logs of SonarQube's analysis, you will find lots of interesting things. For example, which specific profiles are being used for the analysis, all those information will be able to find. Okay, so uh, these many stages are successful, right? Okay, now after SonarQube, what we can do, we can add the OWASP dependency check stage. Okay, so let us do that as well. Let me create multiple stages now because we'll be needing it. Okay, so let us provide the name as OWASP dependency check. Now, how do we write the OWASP dependency check stages? We need to again take help from pipeline syntax. Here, let us see where is OWASP dependency check, invoke dependency check. That means we need to start the dependency check. Okay, so if I click on generate, we can see it generated a command that we can use. So let us write this now. Okay, where is it? Right, dependency check. This will like start the dependency check. Here we have provided the tool. As I mentioned, whenever we use a third-party tool, we need to define it, like mention it in our pipeline so it can be used, and we are defining our tool with the name DC, which we have configured. Just to show you again, if I go to tools, scroll down at the end, and you can see here we have configured it with the name DC, right? Coming back now, we need to provide some arguments also, like where exactly it needs to scan. So for that, what we can do, hyphen scan. These are certain arguments which you should know. Okay. Now the thing is key, what exactly we should be scanning. We need to provide the location, the path, right? Okay. So for now, we want to scan the POM file, right? So what we can do, we can just put a dot slash. That means it is going to scan the current directory where the POM file exists. Okay. And yeah. So here basically we need to create another command, basically the command which will define in what format the report should be generated. That also we can take help from here, dependency check publisher, and here we need to provide the pattern. You can see XML report pattern, that means the default pattern that it will be generating is XML. So we can provide a sample format. Okay, we can generate in this format. Okay, generate, and yes, we have this ready. 1 second, let me just copy this and paste it here. Let me remove this slash. Okay, now it's good. So OS dependency check stage done, right? Now what we are going to do, basically build our application. So I'm going to write build and here we will be writing the command sh double quotes mvn package. But as I mentioned, if I run the package, previous stages like unit test cases, compile, everything will run, but I don't want to run the unit test cases, so I can put the an argument d skip test equal to true. So now application will be getting built, artifact will be generated, but the test cases won't run. Okay, let me create more stages, we'll be needing it. We are going to deploy to nexus also, as I mentioned. So for that also we need to write the code, and it's very simple code. I'll explain how. Here we are going to, let's say what we need to do. After build, we are going to deploy to nexus. We are not deploying the actual application, we are deploying the artifact of the application. Okay, now talking about how should we write the nexus stage, right? So for the nexus stage, what we can do, we need to install a plugin. Which plugins? So let me show you the plugin that I installed. If I search Maven, you can find this pipeline Maven integration plugin, okay, that I just installed. So once you install it, in pipeline syntax you'll be able to see one specific option. Let me show you that as well. That will be with Maven. Okay, now here we can decide like which Maven we want to use, which JDK we want to use, which Maven settings configuration we want to use. So let us select all those things. Actually, yeah, this is fine. Global. So we have already created our my global settings, right, and configured it. So this is fine. We can generate this, copy this whole thing. Okay, paste here. Basically what it will do, it will like you can use this settings file. This is the most important. These are already configured as well as defined, so it does not matter too much. Okay, so this is the main thing that we need to use. And now basically this contains the credentials, right, and URL is inside all our form file. So now what we can do, we can run the command as such mvn deploy. Okay, and here again we need to use dskip. This is not mandatory. The thing is key in our project, I wanted to show you something there where we can use this step, right? And this we need to use when our test case failing, but still we want to proceed and test the application if it is working fine and not fine or not. So in that case we can go with this dskip test equal to true. And this is for dev environment. See, in production we are not going to skip the test cases, just to let you know. Okay, and these are so many stages. So now what I can do, I can execute this and let's just see if everything is running fine. Click on apply, build now, and let's see. So let's wait for it. Once complete, then we'll proceed to next. The thing is the OS dependency check stage, it's going to take lots of time because it for the first time when you run it, it needs to download the it needs to download the database which contains the information about the vulnerabilities. So let's wait for it to complete. Okay team, so I guess steps were success, and let me show you. If I go at the end, yes, so here see this uploaded to Maven snapshots, right? If I go to Nexus, session will expire. No, not required. Go here and browse my snapshots, and you can see we have our jar file uploaded to Nexus, right? We can use it in different ways. That is a different topic to discuss. Okay, but yeah, now a specific version of our artifact of the application will be available inside Nexus, which can be used later. Now, the question that you might think, why it did not upload to releases, instead why did it upload to snapshots? This is because if I go here, go to pom.xml file, scroll up only, here see, here is it, snapshot. Okay, that's why it's uploaded to snapshots only. Okay, so great. Now let's create the rest of the stages, Docker stage also. But before that, let's configure our uh, Kubernetes server. Okay, okay, team. So we need to configure Kubernetes cluster, right? For that, as I mentioned, we are going to create everything in a separate server. So we are going to be needing two nodes. Okay, two worker node and one master node. So I'm going to in total create 3 instances, and I'll be creating Ubuntu server 20.04. And this, see, you can go with T2 medium, but for me actually after the video recording I need to deploy some other applications for testing. So for that purpose I'll be using this, but you can go with, you can generate 4 HGIP memory of like VMs, and then you can configure them in Kubernetes cluster. Talking about in companies, how does this happen? So basically they have nodes as big as like having 128 GB of memory basically RAM. Okay, so yeah, that much we cannot create, but just for your knowledge, nodes there, the company's nodes, they have much bigger than our own. Okay, they have some of them like are like 128 GB of RAM having, some of them are having much more than that. Okay, but you can go ahead with T2 medium. For me, I'll be just going with T2 large because as I mentioned, I need to do some more work afterwards. Okay, so let's create it. Storage, I'll just give them 20 each of them, and launch instance. I hope I have launched 3. Okay, great. So let us name them master-k8, and then worker-node-1. This will be worker-node-2. Okay. Okay, before we proceed, one thing I think, let me just check primary group, and here, yeah. The reason that I have opened this specific range is that in Kubernetes, when you deploy applications, so the specific ports on which they are going to get deployed, uh, in case of node port, this is the range. So for that reason, I have just opened this range, which can be used later. Okay, so this is good, and we have created our 3 extra machines, right? And let us access them. Okay, so first master node, go back to here. Let me create a clone. Let me edit, sorry, not edit, I'll be using rename, because here I can change both the things. Here this will be master dash k8. Okay, color, let us change it to purple. Okay, we have master k8, and let us create another clone which will be for worker node. Rename worker dash node dash 1, an IP address, so we can take it from here. Worker node 1, the public IP address is this one. Let us configure properly here. Okay, so worker node configured. Let us create its clone for the worker node 2. Rename worker node 2 and the IP address, so that we can get it from here. Worker node 2. Okay, let's take some pink color, would be fine. Okay, now let us open the master sorry, yeah, k8 master node. Similar way we need to open for worker node 1 and worker node 2, right? Okay. First command, if you remember, it's sudo apt update. It's kind of cold at my place actually. It's very cold. Let's run the same command here as well. Sudo apt update. Here also apt update. I'll become root in all of those. Here also same. Let's clear the screen on all of these. Okay, now we can start running the commands for installation of Kubernetes cluster. So let me show that as well. We have the commands. So these are the commands that we need to run on master and worker node both, right? First, we'll be installing Docker. So let's do that on all the nodes. Then we need to restart it. See, I'm just not using a shell script because I wanted to show all the commands that we have. So it's better. Or else, these commands that you see. So these you can actually run through a shell script also. You can put in a shell script, run by giving the permissions / name of the script, and it will run. Okay. But yeah, we'll be seeing the commands one by one. That is okay. Let's restart Docker. Okay. Next up we have this. We need to download the specific packages for Kubernetes. Okay. So let's do that as well. Next, just run this command for viewings. Okay, this is good. All these steps will be is already available on my repository, so you can just get it from there. Okay. So once we have added the new packages, basically we need to run the command to update. Okay, whenever you add new packages for any specific tools, you need to update the repository so that it is available for installation through the package. Okay, for that reason we need to run the command apt update once we add any new packages. Then we have installation of kubeadm, which will be used for setting up. And okay, so let's wait for it to run. Meanwhile, we can go here, and only on master node we need to run this command. So this will generate a join command which will be used for joining the worker node to master node. Okay, this command we need to run on master only. Yes, as I mentioned, this is important because in case of Kubernetes this will be used. Okay, I think on worker node we have ran all the commands that were needed, and the rest of the commands we just need to run on master node only. Okay. See, all the required default like pods will be created, and namespace and everything that exists by default in Kubernetes, that will be created using this command. Okay. Okay, here we have this command that you see. This is the command that is going to be, see, any VM we want to add as a worker node, we need to run this command to join that node as a worker node to our master node. Okay, that we can run. So let me just copy this and run on both the nodes. Okay, let me run this on here itself. Okay, so you can see this node has joined the cluster. That means this is done, and for same for the second one. Okay, now we need to Kubernetes control plane is like master node only, has been initialized successfully. To start using your cluster, you need to run the following as a regular user. That means I need to need to remove the root user. Okay, alternatively, if you are the root user, you can run this. Yeah, that is also fine, but let's just execute this one. Okay, and for that we can come out of root and quickly we can run these commands. Basically this is the location where our kube config file will be there. Kube config file basically contains all the configuration of our Kubernetes cluster. Okay, so I have just ran that. So next command that we have, same commands we have written here also. Okay, now we need to install the Calico, which will be used for networking part. Okay, and let me run that as well. That is done, and next we have this for the ingress controller. Okay, so let me run that as well. Okay, so we have now nginx, I think, ingress also. That's great. Okay, okay team, so once the cluster is set up, what we need to do is create a service account first, a role, assign that role to service account, create a secret for the service account, and create a token. Okay, so one by one let's do it. Before that, you can see here there is a specific namespace being used. So let us create a separate namespace inside which our deployment will be running. Okay, for creating a namespace inside your Kubernetes cluster, you can run the command as kubectl create namespace, and the namespace name of the namespace will be web apps. Okay, and you can see it is created. Now what we can do, we can we can create the service account. And service account I'm just creating with the name Jenkins, but with any name it will work fine. Okay, so for that what I'm going to do is create a YAML file. Okay, paste the contents, save this. Okay, and now to execute it, to create the service account, we can run the command kubectl apply -f name of the file, right? And you can see service account Jenkins created. Okay, next step is to create a role again. So basically what will in role we define what kind of access will be having to this service account, like specific a role we are creating. Okay, this role, what kind of access this role is having. Okay, so to whoever we assign this role, same kind of access levels will be giving to that to whoever I'm assigning. Okay, okay, here, yeah, namespace is web apps only, so it's fine. We can copy this and create the YAML for this. We can write the command at vi, and we are creating a role. So let me just put this name and let's paste the commands. Okay, now we can create the we can apply run this command kubectl apply to create the role. And now role is also created for the namespace web apps. Okay, okay, next up what we need to do is assign this role that we have created to the service account that we have created, in our case Jenkins. Okay, so we will create another YAML vi and assign dot YAML, save this. Okay, and now we can run the apply command. Okay, Now the service account Jenkins is having the access to create pods, deploy application, all the access whatever we have defined in our role is provided to that. Okay, and this the same kind of things that happen in companies also. We do not use the root just to like do the deployments directly from our like CICD tool. We use a specific service account which has specific access. Okay, this service account will be able to do these kind of things. Now this is done. Now one more thing that we need to do is sorry, create a token for the service account. So for that we can go to the official page. Okay team, so to create a secret we need to use this. Okay, copy this and we can create a YAML file something like this, vi. And yeah, but here one thing that you need to see is there is no namespace mentioned, right? So we need to make sure that while creating the secret we are creating the secret inside the specified namespace, which is web apps in our case, right? So let's come out and let's apply, and here hyphen n will be name of namespace, which in our case is web apps, right? So now it is created. Now to view the secret token that exists inside this secret, we need to run a specific command like this. Now you see kubectl hyphen n, and basically this part is denoting to that we are running this command inside this namespace. Okay, running the describe secret. The name of the secret that we have created is my secret name, right? Click enter and okay. Now this token that you see, this is going to be used for authentication that we are going to work with. Okay, great. Now one more thing that we need to understand, we need to find this kube config file. In our case it should be inside somewhere in Ubuntu folder. Okay, so let us see that as well. Okay team, so once we have the token, next step is to get the kube config file, because it contains all the information about the Kubernetes cluster which we need to use with Jenkins. So where exactly is kube config file? It exists on this location /.cube file. .cube means it's an hidden file. Click enter and you can see there are two files exist. One is folder cache and one is file config. Now this config file, it contains the complete information about the Kubernetes cluster. Let me show you. I can run the command cat to view this. And here you can see client key data, client certificate data, name. Okay, then we have cluster, then we have server. So server we are going to need it. Okay, yeah, so we got all the information. Now we can jump back to Jenkins and start completing our pipeline. So let's write it. Next step, what I want to do is create the Docker image, build the Docker image basically. Okay. So let us write the code for that. Build Docker image. Okay. And along with build, we are going to tag it also. So I can write tag. Great. Now to write Docker commands, again, we can take help from the pipeline syntax. So let's go here and let's find with Docker registry. Let me just refresh it. Okay, we need to log in again. Admin Aditya. Okay, yeah, we are logged in. Let me see if servers are all fine. Okay, great. So we are logged in. We can write the stages for the Docker, right? Let's continue. Docker build and tag. Build and tag image actually. Sorry about that. Okay. So Docker commands that we are going to write, we will be enclosing it inside the script in this format script. Okay. Now Docker commands will be running inside here. So as I mentioned, we'll be using pipeline syntax to get the commands to run. And this command with Docker registry we are going to use. Registry URL we don't need to give because you are using a public Docker Hub repository. So that is available by default, so we don't need to put. In case you are using a private registry, then you need to give the Docker registry URL. Okay. Credentials we have already configured. Docker also already configured. Now this step, we can copy this, paste it here inside the script. Okay. Now we are going to write our stages, our commands inside the Docker. Okay. So let's write it as such. Double quotes, Docker build -t, because we are going to tag it also. And the name I want to give is going to be Adi Jaiswal slash, sorry about that, ecart. Okay, tag will be just latest. Okay, now basically the Docker file, if I go here, the Docker file, it does not exist on the root location. It exists inside a folder named Docker. Okay, so we need to provide the full path. How do we do that? -f, then Docker slash Docker file space dot. Okay, this will build the Docker file, and from this specific location we have just defined, okay, Docker file exists inside Docker folder. Okay. Okay, now once the image is built, we need to basically scan, do the vulnerability scanning using Trivy. Now Trivy has not yet been installed in our Jenkins machine, and there is no official plugin available, so we need to install it by running direct commands on Jenkins. So I have the commands on my system which I need to run. So let us run quickly. All these steps actually are available in my repository, so you can just take it from there. And where is it? Yes, here. And this also we can run. Then update. See, as I have told you always, that every time we add a new package to our Linux, we need to make sure that we are updating the Linux repository so that those packages are available afterwards for installation. Okay, so it's done. Next is to finally install the Trivy. Now Trivy is installed, right? So what we can do, we need to add the Trivy stage in our pipeline as well. So let's add it. I will just create a copy of this stage, and here let's provide the name as Trivy scan. Okay, and here we need to provide the commands to scan a Docker image using Trivy, which we can run in this format: Trivy image. Name of the image, in our case it's going to be this one, right? Great. So yeah, this command basically what it will do, it will generate the it will generate the report. Okay. Okay team, so now we have written the command to scan the Trivy image, right? But to make sure that the image is getting scanned and the report is pasted in a separate file, what we can do, we can use this, which will, whatever the output comes from here will be pasted in the name of specific text file or any formatted file you write. Okay, Trivy dot, sorry, Trivy dash report dot txt. Okay, now this will, what it will do, it will scan the Docker image and paste the results here. Now we have written the commands to uh, build the Docker image, tag it, and to be scanned by Trivy. Next command will be to push the Docker image to Docker Hub repository. So we can write the command docker push. Okay, and we can remove these things. Okay, so these many stages we have written. Now next will be the final stage, which is to deploy the application to Kubernetes cluster, right? So before that we need to have certain plugins, but before that let me just save it. So it's not going anywhere, right? Okay, let's come here, plugins, available plugins. Let's search for Kubernetes. We are going to install this and Kubernetes CLI. These two plugins will be needed. Okay, let me just check if anything else also we need. I think these two will work fine. So let us click on install and let's go with it. See, these two are already were dependent plugins, so they got installed also. Okay, great. So this is done. Now we need to generate these stages for uh, this final stage, right? So we can scroll down. Okay, let's create another stage. So let me just copy this, create a new stage for Kubernetes. Okay, and here we are going to write Kubernetes deploy. Let's remove this pipeline syntax. Here we should be able to find something related to Kubernetes. So let's see. Mm -mm -mm -mm. I think let's see what options available here. Server endpoint, cluster name, namespace. Okay, so this we can use. Talking about credentials, so credential will be the token that we generated, right? So I have saved this token and let me add it. Copy this, add. It's going to be a secret text, right? Because it's a token. ID will be k8-token. Same thing is going to be written here. Generate. Let's select it. Server endpoint, right? So that we can get from here. You can see this is the server. So we will copy this, paste it here. Cluster name, even if you don't provide, it's fine. Context name, fine. Namespace, in our case, it's going to be web apps. Okay. You can leave it, even though we have this file, but we are just going to leave it. Okay. Generate pipeline script, and we have the block ready. So let's paste it here. Now whatever command we want to write, we can write it here, right? Okay. Now a few changes we need to do with respect to our deployment service file. So let me show you that as well. We have this deployment service YAML file and we have the file ready. Okay, two files we are having, basically two specific kind of deployment we are doing. First is deployment, you can see the kind deployment. Second is service. Okay, let me explain you a few things. So the YAML files of any kind of things that you are going to deploy, it has sections. For example, the one second here, sorry. First we have API version, just defining like which version of API we need to use with respect to our YAML file. Then we have kind, what kind of resource we are actually going to create. Okay, then we have this info. This is metadata. Metadata is nothing but some information about the resource that you are going to create. In our case, like name, then it has some specification. Match labels. Match labels is the section. So see how this service will know this service is created for which resource. So that is done using match labels. It's basically a way to match the, you can see the name selector ecart. Here also we'll be having the labels ecart. Okay, so match label is basically used to connect or like let the service know, okay, you are getting created for this resource. Okay, okay. Then we have replicas. So for example, let's say you have a very big application and there is so much of traffic coming. So what you do, you create the same pod, two versions of the same, sorry, not the two versions, you create two pods for a thing, for a resource. So the main reason for that key, if too much of traffic is coming, then what we can do, once on one pod so much of traffic is there, so we can redirect the traffic to other pod. Okay, that can be done using service. There are another see, this is the template. So in template, basically we define what resources we are going to use. For example, here we are using containers, right? So here we need to provide the docker image name which is going to be used. Okay, then we have container port, so that we'll see, and that we will define as per the things. Okay, so in our case, if I go here, The thing is ki, where is the Docker file? Yes. Now here if you see the port 8070, that means application will be running on port 8070. So that is the port that we are going to open in our deployment service file as well. Okay. So let me edit. First of all, container port, it's going to be 8070, right? Then we have here, there are two ports written, right? So team, talking about the port and target port. Okay. So this is the port that is on which the service is running in the cluster, and that will be used within the cluster for communications. Okay. Target port is the port on which our application will be running actually. Okay. Coming back to type, node port, why I have written node port. So as I explained, load balancer, basically if you use load balancer, it is much better. It creates a new external link or external IP address which can be used to access the application directly. Okay. But the problem is that if you are setting up self-hosted Kubernetes on your own VMs, it may not, the load balancer may not always work. That is one of the issues that I have faced. So just to make sure that our application is still running, I'm using node port. Okay. But as a part of best practice, always go with load balancer. If you are using EKS or AKS or any other cloud Kubernetes cluster, easily you can use load balancer. It will generate the external IP address for the application to run well. Okay. For now, let's just go with this, and let me make the changes. Right. So everything seems fine, and yeah. Now let us write the commands to start the deployment. So in double quotes, I'm going to write kubectl apply -f, and we have uh, this file, deployment service file, and we are going to use this one to do the deployment, right? Yeah. Okay. Now after the deployment is done, I want to run one more command to view the resources created, which I can do using kubectl get svc-n for namespaces. I can run web apps. Okay. And here also let me just add it. Okay. So this is our pipeline created with all the stages that are required, and I hope this is successful. So yes, let's see. Let me trigger it. Immediately we got some error we have. Let's see. Okay, duplicate stage. As I mentioned that we should not be having any stage with same name, and I guess we are having this one. So Docker, we need to put the name here as Docker push image. Okay, one more thing. Let me change quickly. Name of the Docker image that is being used. In our case, the name is this one. Let me just match everything. It's fine. Rest everything seems okay. So let's do the deployment one more time, and let's see what happens. So the pipeline has started, and we will wait for it to complete. If any error comes, we can try to fix it. Okay team, so we encountered a failure, and let's see what is the issue. If I scroll down at the end, we can see the error kubectl not found. That means our Jenkins server does not have kubectl, right? So what we can do, we can quickly install it, and this should maybe fix the issue. Let's see. Let's wait for it to complete. So once it's okay, so kubectl is installation is completed. So once kubectl is installed, we can try to rerun our pipeline, and let us see the results. It will take few minutes, so let's see what happens. Okay team, so finally the deployment is successful. We are able to see the successful artifacts, dependency check trends, as well as the pipeline is already success. Okay. And yeah, SonarQube results are or SonarQube analysis is also successful. SonarQube results we can see on the SonarQube portal. Okay. Now talking about the build results, so we can go to here, scroll at the end, and we can find that deployment is successful. Okay. Here the deployment created and service also got created. Okay. And we got to know that the port on which our application will be accessible is 31952. So to access the application, we can go on the worker nodes because the application has been deployed to worker node. So I am inside the worker node 1. I can get the public IP address, paste it here. Okay. Colon 31952. Okay. And I can go home /home, and yeah, I have logged in with the admin username. If you can just put the details as admin, and you will be logged in with admin access. Okay. Now everything you can just check out, remove, and all those things you can do. But yeah, application is deployed successfully through on this Kubernetes, and we have used all the stages required. Okay. So yeah, check out this, and let me just copy the Jenkins file so this time I don't forget to remove it. Sorry, don't forget to share this with you. Okay. So I have just copied, and let me just save it somewhere. Okay, team. Also, team, so if you find this video useful, because everything I did from scratch, and I believe this should be really useful to you as well. So check it out, work with it, and let me know if you are having any kind of doubts. So thanks for watching and have a nice day.